Hey guys, welcome back. For those of you who just watched the first video on potting up peppers, you're going to notice this tray is a little different than when you last saw it. There's actually been 20 days passed between when I finished the last video and starting today, and you'll notice we've got peppers. If you want to learn how to get pepper seeds to turn into something a little bit like this, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know to keep your seeds moist, to get them warm enough, to do everything to get them to actually germinate. But before I do that, do not forget to subscribe, like this video, and hit the bell so you're notified anytime that we put out new videos. Okay, so let's do a little channel housekeeping. Right now we've actually got 3 different videos on how to start peppers from seed almost to harvest. And this is the second video. We've got a video showing how to sow the seeds into trays. Today we're going to talk about heat mats, humidity domes, lights, doing them indoors, and then we have a third video that's already up about how to pot up peppers and get them into the garden. So we've got everything that you need to know. You have no excuse to not grow pepper seeds this year. If you've seen our May garden tour, you see the plants that we potted up in our third potting up video actually in the ground, flowering, doing great. So I'm so excited about peppers this year. Let's get into how we grow them from seed. So in the last video, we sowed the seeds, we kept them moist, we have a bottom watering tray, and we brought them inside. Now I purposely let some time pass so we could see some actual germination going on, but there's a few things that I did that I want to cover now to go from just seed in the dirt to what you see here. And the first thing is constant monitoring of water. I not only had about an inch or 2 of water in the bottom of the tray when I brought it in, but I also every day would look at the soil and see if any of these little cells needed an extra dose of water, because you can probably tell as the plastic warps, some of the cells sit higher than the ones in the middle. So I would go around with my little handy dandy watering can and give them a shot of water. Okay, so if we look at this tag, it says April 15th. Today is May 5th, and you'll notice not all of these seeds have sprouted yet. I've still got my fingers crossed. The thing with pepper seeds is time. Anywhere from 7 to 28 days. Usually about, once you hit that 3-week mark, which tomorrow is our 3-week mark, you kind of start to get worried. One thing you can do is take a pin or maybe even your finger and lightly move the soil back. If you see the seed in there, you're fine. Put it back up. It's going to keep growing. If you don't see it, it's probably rotted. And you're going to have to restart. I've mentioned in previous videos some of the seed that I'm using, just because I'm economical and don't like wasting any seed, is about 2 to 3, in some cases 4 years old. So especially with pepper seeds, each year that you go past their ideal year, you're going to get germination rates going way down. And this is actually the second time that I've tried to start padrones, pimentos, and scotch bonnet, and so far I haven't had any luck. Number 3, we've talked about water, we've talked about time, now we've got to talk about heat. Inside this greenhouse, inside my office, we've actually got a thermometer right here. It's 50% humidity, 73 degrees Fahrenheit, almost 74. That's okay, but peppers, as we've said before, are tropical plants. They want hot soil. So as you can see, I have a heat mat that I place right underneath my tray that's going to raise the temperature anywhere from 5 to 10 to 15 degrees higher than the ambient temperature. I don't know how that magic works. That's just what it says on the box. And one final thing that's going to help with that first piece, and that's the moisture, is a humidity dome. I personally don't have any humidity domes, so I didn't use them. All that means is I had to water a little bit more. If I did have a dome, it's a clear plastic piece that goes on top of your seeds. It's going to keep every bit of moisture that's in the pots. It's not going to allow it to evaporate where you have to go in and water more. Okay, so one question I've had for so long that finally got answered to me is, when do I take the tray off of the heating mat. And what I was told and what I do is once the last seed has germinated, then I'm going to turn the heating mat off or just take it out. If I were to leave these on throughout the growing process and took them straight from a warm, super hot soil outside to the native soil, which is not anywhere near as warm, it's going to shock the plants. Also, keeping them that hot for that long, you're going to get leggier, taller plants, which you don't want, which is actually a great transition into the indoor lights and where you actually want to place them. So I'm really happy because a lot of them have sprouted, but I'm going to give it about a week, and if the rest of these haven't sprouted, I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat mat off. Another thing I want to show you guys is how close I actually have the plants to the light. This is really, really, really close. I've actually burned one of them, and let me show that to you right now. So I'm going to go ahead and just raise this up. The first thing I could tell when I picked this up is how dry this soil is. If you have dry soil and your plants are really close to the light, not only is that light giving off a little bit of heat and taking the moisture out, it's also really hot and you're going to burn your leaves. It's not the end of the world. As you can see, there's more leaves coming out of the center, but if you leave your plants for a few days right next to the light, you're going to burn them all and it will kill them. So definitely watch out for that. Okay, so I have two different ways to change the distance between plant and light. I can drop my lights from either low or high, and I have these 2x3 boards that there's almost endless orientations that I can use. That is higher than that, and then the next step is I take this off, put that on its side, put that down, and then I'm all the way down on the ground. Alright, so if I have the light at its highest placement and the tray is just sitting on the shelf, I can get these plants as tall as they need to be to go straight out in the garden, which is about 4 to 6 inches tall. But at the same time, when I lower the lights and put 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 boards, I can get them as high as they need to be so the plants don't get leggy. So it's kind of a balancing act. As the plants grow, you're going to have to go back and forth. The most important part is keeping the light as close as possible to prevent leggy plants. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is how to water, and that's bottom watering versus top watering. So with the trays that I have, I actually don't love bottom watering. There are a lot of reasons why bottom watering is the best, but in my case, there's 2 reasons why I don't like it. So the first, as I've mentioned several times, the pots sit low some places and high in other places, which is going to be uneven watering. So if you've got an even layer of water on the bottom and some are sitting low or high, each pot is going to get a different amount of water, which you definitely don't want. The other is that this particular tray has an insert where the 32 pots sit, and for whatever reason, that insert sits about a full inch off the bottom of this tray. So you actually have to put a lot of water in the bottom of this tray for bottom watering to even work, which isn't a huge problem, but the idea of having stagnant sitting water in my office, not a big fan of that. Okay, so while we're talking about watering, we might as well talk about fertilizing. My rule of thumb, and Brigette's and everyone at San Diego Seed, is once it gets the first set of true leaves, not the cotyledons, but the true leaves, you're going to want to fertilize with fish emulsion at about half power, which means if it calls for 2 tablespoons per gallon, we're going to put 1 tablespoon in per gallon and then water these in. And I'm going to do that about once a week until I plant them out into the garden. Because remember, the only nutrients that you have are whatever are available in the soil that you use, and some of you don't have any nutrients in your soil because you're using soilless mix, and whatever energy is present in the cotyledons, which rule of thumb is about 2 weeks seeds can survive without any additional fertilizer. So that's why we fertilize when we're doing our seed starting. Okay, so one thing I forgot to mention really quick, I looked at my notes on my One America State Life envelope that I wrote down. You're going to want to keep these lights on about 14 hours a day. I used to do 12, but that's really the minimum. You can go anywhere from 12 to 16 hours. I've settled at 14 and I've gotten really good results. I have it on a simple timer that comes on at 6 a.m., turns off at 8 p.m., and I really don't have to think about it. Okay, so let me give these guys a drink really quick. Then I've got one more super important thing to say that's going to help you get from this size to our potting up size, which we cover in the next video. But hold on, stay tuned. I'm going to give the cells that have no plants in them a little extra because I want to make sure that I keep this soil moist all the way through to give any possibility of germination the chance of happening. So one thing that is promising is this jalapeno right here, and actually this is a better example. I planted all of these on the 15th. Like I said, it's been 20 days, and if you look, this one just came up I think yesterday. So we're definitely not too far gone. I still could get some more germination in the next couple days, so I'm holding out some hope. Okay, so here's the last tip, and I think a lot of you have guessed it, and if you don't know by now, there's my clue. One thing that you have to do is thin your peppers down to 1 per cell. And I know that really sucks because they take so long to germinate, and once they do, you fall in love with every single one. You can tell the different patterns on the leaves and you start naming them, and we're obsessed with our peppers, or maybe that's just me, I don't know. If I were to leave 2 plants in each cell, or in some cases 3, because remember, when we sowed them, we didn't just put 1 per cell, we put multiple. If I left them all here, none of them are gonna do well. There's not enough space for water and nutrients for them to share in here. You're gonna have to get them down to 1. So what I do is I just look at the ones that are least deformed. So this one came up last, and then, I don't know, it's kind of a crapshoot. I say, okay, this one's got a bigger leaf, so let's just go with that one. So I literally just cut them. One thing that you don't want to do is try to pull these out and save them. The reason being is the root systems are so young and underdeveloped that if you try to pull these out at this point, especially with peppers that don't like any disturbance to their roots, you could damage the main one and then have none. So I go ahead and clip them, get them down to 1, and then I am good to go. Some of you may be familiar with the way to sow tomato seeds, and that is plant them densely and then break the soil up and separate each individual plant. You may plant as anywhere from 10 to 15 in a cell this size, separate them out and put them in their own new pot. You can't really do that with peppers. Like I said, the roots do not like being disturbed, and you run the risk of ruining all your peppers. So either plant 1 seed per cell if you don't like snipping them, or go ahead and cut them down to 1. I've never tried it, but I just had the thought, and maybe one of you guys have. If you have, drop a comment. You could technically try to root these out. I don't think it would work because the plants are so young. But if you had a little tiny cup of water and wanted to sit this in there, keep it cool, keep it away from the sun, and see if any roots come out, you could try it. Like I said, I don't think it works, but I'd love to see one of you guys try. Okay, so that's how you grow peppers from seed. If you get them up to this size and you're ready to start thinking about potting them up, like I said, go check out our other video. That's gonna cover all the things of pot size and whether you pinch, whether you don't, everything you need to know to grow peppers successfully.